Jai Hind, my dear students. Hope you are doing good. Now, today we are going to learn about food chain. Now, the first question that comes to your mind is what is food chain? The food chain describes the feeding relationships between living organisms. That is, it shows who eats whom for what. It shows how each living thing gets its food. In a food chain, we use arrows to show levels. Children, as you can see in the diagram, we are showing arrows. The arrows means is eaten by, and the arrows always points to the right. Why does it always point to the right? Because you can see in the diagram, the aquatic plant is eaten by small fish and the small fish is eaten by big fish. So that is why the arrows always point to the right. Make a note, when you draw the diagram, you will not make the arrows pointing to the left. It always points to the right. Now, children, a food chain always starts with the producer and ends with the consumer, as you can see in the diagram. Now you can see that it always starts with the producer. Who are the producers? The green plants. Why are they called as producers? Because they can prepare their own food with the process of photosynthesis. They also prepare their food using their sunlight, air, water and nutrients from the soil to make their food. Now who eats this food? Animals and humans consume this food. So that is why we call them as consumer. As you can see in the diagram, the small fish are called as consumer, and the first consumer, that is, the first consumer are usually a herbivore. Herbivore, you already know, are the animals that eat only plants. Here, the herbivore is a small fish. You can see in the diagram. The herbivore is eaten by either an omnivore or an carnivore. Here in the diagram you can see the big fish is a carnivore. Carnivores are the animals that eat flesh of other animals, and they are called as secondary consumer. Primary consumer means the first consumer. Secondary consumer means the second consumer. All right, it is clear. It can either be the secondary consumer can either be an omnivore or a carnivore. Clear? It forms the next level of the food chain, and it is also a consumer. Thus you can see that the energy are getting transferred from one level to another. This is an aquatic food chain, where you have to remember that it always starts, all the food chains in nature always starts with plants, that is the producer, and ends with the consumer, that they can be either a carnivore or an omnivore. Now we are going to have a look at the terrestrial food chain. Alright, that is, terrestrial means the food chain on land. There must be many other food chain that must be coming to your mind. I just give a close look of the terrestrial food chain. Children, if you look at this, I hope the pictures are clear to you, right? In a food chain, each organism is linked to another because each one becomes the food for the next as it transfers the nutrient. If we look at the example given, in this example, if you see, the plant is eaten by rabbit, who is eaten by wild boar, right? Who is eaten by wild boar. The boar is eaten by tiger. Alright, now when the tiger dies, the hawks and vultures feed on it, and animals that feed on the dead bodies of animals are called as scavengers, or we call them the dead remains of the plants and animals. Those who eat, we call them as what? Scavengers. Scavengers. I'll be giving you the definition in the next video. Alright, I hope the scavengers are clear. Here if you can see, who are the rabbit? Rabbit are the primary consumer, right? Then wild boar becomes the secondary consumers, and rabbits are herbivore. Here it will be carnivore, all right. And tiger is also a carnivore, and they are eaten by scavengers. Now the last which we are going to learn about is the decomposers. Decomposers are the microorganisms that feed on dead and decaying matter. Now the whatever the uneaten part is left, whatever uneaten part of the dead animals, you can see here, these are the uneaten part is eaten by, they mix with the soil, and they are called as decomposers. Children, you can see that the fungi, basically the decomposers are the fungi and the bacteria which feed on dead remains of plants and animals. They absorb, what do? They absorb the nutrients and pass it to the soil, all right. These nutrients are again used by other plants, okay, to produce more food. Thus this is a continuous cycle where the nutrients pass from one to another, back to back. This is a continuous cycle, and that is why we called it as a food chain. So this is the terrestrial food chain, that is the food chain on land, and which I have started off was the aquatic food chain, that was the food chain in water. All right, I hope by now you know that the food chain always starts with plants, the producer, and ends with the consumer. Finally they ends with the decomposer, that is why they are definitely the consumer that feed on dead and decaying matter, if you look at the terrestrial food chain. All right, I hope it is clear to you. If you have any doubts, post your queries to us. Happy learning. Have a great day ahead. Thank you.